Okay. Well, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of the airport administrators, managers, executives, and representatives. I'm with the Colorado Sustainable Energy Consulting with my fellow colleagues, Bo Radovich, Ben Wachter, myself, John Usury, Corey Rutke, and Jack Crawford. And we're here to present to you today our different proposals for how to improve your energy needs. So one of the major problems that's going to define our generation is how we address the problem of climate change, carbon emissions, and finding alternative energy sources. So this chart depicts carbon emissions in the U.S. for the years 2009, presented from the EPA. As you can see, transportation accounts for 30% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Within this, the aviation industry accounts for roughly 12%. And now the aviation industry has always been a leader in adopting new technologies and innovative strategies to improve sustainable societies and address issues. Now, our company, Colorado Sustainable Energy Consulting, has recently entered a competition through the Federal Aviation Administration to improve airfield management within your respective airports. Now, some of the potential issues that our company covers and that are major concerns for airfield management include energy-efficient airport equipment such as ground support vehicles, energy generators, power units, also finding alternative energy sources for remote airports, including that solid waste management practices and also alternative lighting sources. So what this sector represents, here you can see a pie chart of all the energy uses for Denver International Airport. So terminals occupy these major quadrants here on the lower right, and our company does not work in improving those energy efficiencies. Instead, we focus on the minor energy consumers with airfield management. So now I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues to present on the proposed strategies we have for solving these energy problems.
So within the realm of power generation, CSEC specializes in two major areas, the first of which is wind power. Now if you look at this map, you can see that the western United States it's got a really high concentration of areas that have good to excellent wind power potential, and it would make sense that we should tap into this resource and use it to power our airports. However, when discussing wind power for use in, on, or near airports, a couple of unique hurdles and problems present themselves. The first of which is wind farms with large capacities generally need a very large area so that you can space each turbine accordingly. The second problem encountered is that these large capacity turbines, again, are very tall, often hundreds of feet. Great for wind, but in and around airports where you have low-flying aircraft, definitely presents a problem. Another inherent issue is that wind turbines need consistently windy conditions, and airports need consistently calm conditions. So we look at it and we say, well, wind power then definitely is an option for off-site generation, channeling energy to the airport. The second technology that CSEC specializes in is solar photovoltaic, or PV cells, and in particular very large arrays. As you can see here, this array is actually at the San Jose airport. Many airports across the country actually do use solar farms to power their operations, DIA is included. We actually have an 8 megawatt generating capacity in Denver. And again, Chicago O'Hare, they use an off-site solar farm. The more urban airports just don't have the room for it. One thing that we're proposing to help alleviate that issue is actually installing these arrays over all of the parking lots. Not only would it shade the cars, but also provide a useful area for solar generation. Now, when we also we need to talk about reducing energy. One of the biggest and first steps is reducing your energy use. As such, we propose that airports switch all of their runway and taxiway lighting to LEDs. Again, this has been used in various airports around the country, but one of the issues that arises here is that it's only suitable for airports with warm climate. The reason for that, LEDs don't produce heat like incandescent bulbs do. As such, if you get snow, the snow won't melt and fall off the lights. So they have to install heaters then to heat the bulbs so that the snow will run off, which sort of defeats the purpose of switching to LED in the first place.
So one of the simplest and cheapest ways that an airport could reduce its greenhouse gas emissions and its energy usage overall would be to simply sort their solid waste on site. A recycling program can be profitable, like CU's or DIA's recycling program, until actually last year CU's was profitable when they switched over to single stream. The airports could also switch over to more compostable or just less packaging, or even just offer fewer products that have waste that would go to the landfill. They could also look into a trash compactor or incinerator, which would simply reduce the volume that's going to end up in your landfill. We're also looking at outfitting the ground fleet with fuel cells instead of an internal combustion engine, which would be ideal because it would reduce, greatly reduce their carbon emissions. And also, your hydrogen fuel cells just let out clean water as their only byproduct. And San Francisco has already done this at their, not their airport, but just in their city. They have 12 fuel cell buses operating, and it's doubled their monthly bus usage. And if possible, we'd like to incorporate this into an algae farm or a reactor. There are actually strains of algae that are capable of making hydrogen gas at $10 a kilogram right now, but there are proposed methods that could get it to under $2 a kilogram if you did it in the ocean and removed startup costs, basically. Producing crude oil with your algae is kind of an infant technology, so it's not really economically viable yet. But this would be a good system to use in conjunction with other alternatives, because you could use the fuel cells as a storage option. And it would also not only reduce the carbon emissions, it would also sequester CO2. So that would be pretty ideal.
Okay, so these are the design criteria by which we will be evaluating our energy solutions. A couple points to note. First, incentives is on this list. So with any or most green technologies at least, there's government support that backs it, and there's government grants that are offered that help make these options more economically viable. One such grant right now is offered by the Department of Energy. It's $2.5 million that they're giving to the first airport that can install a fleet of fuel cell powered vehicles for their ground support. Second is the replicability of our design. Since there are over 15,000 airports in the US alone, having a design that is easily replicable in various regions and climate conditions is really a deciding factor in evaluating our solutions. And so in order to maintain our work ethic, we're going to follow a 3-month work plan, which outlines various deadlines and the overall organization of the project, including personnel and tasks to be completed. Individual assessment will be required before any work is submitted to the group. We will also have a system of peer checks put in place so that each individual assignment is reviewed and critiqued by at least one, if not all, of the team members. We will also present our major decisions before the mentors so that they can maintain the most professional and practical horizons for our project to follow. And last, most importantly, any decisions will be presented to our client as well, and they will be a key component in deciding which way our project is going.
So this is our schedule of our deliverables that we will be presenting throughout the 3-month work plan. The first one is a proposal which we're presenting you today. We thank you for this opportunity, and we're glad to be able to work with you. Our next steps is working with our client and helping, working with them and making sure that our the energy needs, where the energy needs lie, and where the best alternative airport and whatnot is in Colorado and whatnot. And that will be due on March 14th. We'll then move into our next stage, our development and preliminary design stage, where we will work with our clients in depth and make specific specifications along with CAD drawings and other figures to maximize client satisfaction, and that will be due on April 18th. Which moves into our next stage, how much is this going to cost? So we're thinking roughly, we broke it down into both 2 deliverables, the alternative assessment and design. Roughly it's going to be $22,000, and that would include our research and working with the clients, contacting them. The development and preliminary design is a little more expensive because we have to work with we have to create CAD drawings and make specific design specifications. That's a little more expensive, which a total grand budget of around $54,000, consisting of 850 work hours to ensure our maximum highest quality and client satisfaction.
And once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon and giving the opportunity to present to you. My name is John Usry again, and I'll be the project manager throughout this design process.
And again, I'm Bo Radovich. I am the assistant project manager.
I'm Ben. I'm the team liaison.
My name is Jack Gofford. I'm in charge of research and development.
I'm Corey Recke, the senior engineer.
And at this point, I'd like to open the floor to questions. Yes.
So a lot of the current energy conservation procedures are go around and look at where energy is being wasted.
Yeah.
You guys looked at in airports where a lot of energy is being wasted currently.
Well, the biggest one is probably in terminals with heating, ventilation, and cooling systems. But because we can't focus that, a lot of energy is wasted on ground transportation, and there's a lot of improvement to be made with alternative energy sources for life.
Where would you propose having your energy generation facilities? If you did algae or...
Well, it's going to depend on the specific site. Like we talked about, some sites are more suited to having a large, say for example, a solar or wind, whereas depending on the algae growth farm, we can also use that in a smaller space. So that's really going to be site-specific. But generally either on-site or, if need be, off-site within a small radius.
If it's by the shore, that opens up ocean options too, like offshore wind and algae farms in the ocean too, which are really cheap.
So I have a question. So you presented a broad array of options. Is there a sense that you'll design all those options for the client, one of the
No, we will choose a specific option, and that option is going to be geared upon the client-specific needs again. After seeing energy audits, seeing if they're renovating any of their systems, such as they're renovating their ground support vehicles, we'll try and go with an option for maybe alternative fuel cells. So again, we're going to specialize in one of these for our client. And once the client has elected us for this, we'll be able to choose which energy option.
It's going to be very, very site-specific. We actually looked at the possibility of using solar or wind power to actually produce hydrogen via electrolysis, and that's actually a up-and-coming technology as well. So it may be a combination, but definitely not all of them as well.
Any other questions?
So you indicated that earlier on in sort of the quality assurance part that you would have legitimate references, was the wording on the slide. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, we will make sure that they are only from scholarly sources, either peer-reviewed journals or something of that nature.
A lot of, a lot of these things aren't necessarily scholarly reviewed too. They're tried by people, and they then will put out information regarding their experiments and whether or not it worked for them. So some of our sources will be industry, also scholarly as well.
FAA contacts too would probably be a good legitimate resource, I would say.
And CDOT
Yeah.
contacts as well.